Okay, Vanessa, we've been speaking about the why, what we do. And in the process of that, that's been very clear, but you've kind of come up with, you're very passionate about foundations, because buildings are, I gather, have to be built on the foundations that are laid. So you've come up with foundations. I'm sure there could be lots of them, but you've kind of come up with 12 key kingdom foundations, I think you call them. Can you just tell us why you've come up with foundations?
Well, in a potted history, I had been in the leadership of a church that was small and gone through change and became a big church, so I knew what it was to lead in that sort of situation. I had then had several questions that concerned me about our effectiveness and why we weren't effective in connecting people to God and reaching people for God. So involved then in planting a church, and found the same things occurred. A particular problem is things ending up centred around me and my charisma, personality, ministry. So went on a long prayer and fast basically to seek God and say, I'm lost. I've seen how other people build church. I thought I was doing it your way, building the community of God, but somehow it still becomes man-centred. And going back to my original passion, how on earth do we get to the roots of something being built from God rather than from a model or a style? And during that period of prayer and fasting, we became obvious, well, go back to the way God did it. God's the ultimate missionary. So in creation, basically, God is missioning the earth. And he sets up his own way of doing it. Now, of course, first of all, it stems from him, who he is. And I was astounded to find out, instead of doing what we would think he would do, and the same occurs when he sends Jesus, he doesn't announce himself with a fanfare or do anything grand. In creation, he created a marriage and said, these two people becoming one is a representation of how I am three people as one. So I'm multiplying myself. And he set them up to have children, so they multiplied themselves. So there was a marriage pattern and there was a family pattern. And their work was to extend God's rule by filling the earth and subduing it. So every single area of the earth was meant to come under his rule, his kingdom rule, by them living out these principles. And I then looked at this pattern and thought, well, it's a representation of God, it's a representation of what he did in creation, and it's also repeated in the story of redemption, where Jesus, from his, if you like, marriage with the Father and the Holy Spirit, his oneness community, he came, and his disciples, he called his family. And when his actual blood mother turned up, these are my brothers and my sisters and mother and so on. And so he reproduced children, and so we have the same family pattern. And their work was to introduce God and cause all the nations to obey him, which is fill the earth and subdue it, again, in every area of society. And then God led me to that passage in Ephesians 2, where it talks about the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Jesus himself as the cornerstone. And I thought, well, here we are starting with God. We see it in creation, we see it in redemption, and we see it even in this pattern there. That obviously everything flows from Father, Son and Holy Spirit. And so Christ becomes a cornerstone because the Father sent him, and now the Holy Spirit represents him. And so he must be the one from whom everything flows. And saw quite simply that the apostolic foundation then was to build upon the pattern that God had set. That's the way he governs things. And the prophetic foundation was built to the purpose that God is going for. So really these principles, if you like, are based on the King, Jesus, the Father, and obviously the fellowship of the Holy Spirit. There's the cornerstone, and flow out from the pattern he sets, which I believe is what I'm calling the apostolic pattern, for the purpose that he set. And so we're not just trying to come up with another model, another style, or anything else. Say, God missioned the world, these are the principles in which he set. God missioned where he sent Jesus, he set the same principles again. And these principles are invited. These are the ones we go from. And as a matter of fact, I'd say just to anybody who ends up watching this, if you pick up at any point that I'm saying this is the way something must be done,
you're on the wrong track.
Yeah, I made a mistake.
Yeah, exactly right.
I'm talking about a lifeline. The life that flows from God and his person, His pattern, His purpose, which releases us as people.